Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to this Thursday evening to one of our new shows, The Debate, Surveying the Battlefield. Kind of an extension of Camilla's Choice, but I think it's very important for us to discuss um, what happened in the debate, and I think this is good for the future of our country. Um, I have a very interesting panel tonight. I'm hoping some of the ladies will show up, but in the meantime, I have Mr. Matt Gill. Uh, Mr. Gill, how are you doing this evening?
Excellent. How are you, James?
I'm doing fine. Every day above ground is a good day as far as I'm concerned. And a good friend of mine from another show, Mr. Demetrius Burgess. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Mr. King, good to see you. Matt, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
And we also have Bishop Frank Tull. He's joining us. And Bishop, how are you doing tonight?
Now, I'm doing phenomenal, doing phenomenal. How you guys doing?
Good. Absolutely.
Good.
Am I freezing?
Looking good over here.
Well,
Am I freezing or is that just?
no, you
Okay.
seem to be all right. Everything seems to be going in pretty good working order. Uh, so, gentlemen, I sent you all a little preview of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. And as I said, I think it's important for us to discuss these things, whether we're all on the same page or not. I didn't ask anybody about their political affiliation or anything like that. I was voices from America. And I'm going to start with you, Bishop. Was there anything in the debate that wasn't covered that you wanted covered, or maybe something that you wanted covered a little better? Can you hear me,
Well,
Bishop?
first of all, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. And like you said, I agree. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, you're fine.
Yeah, seems to be a little bit of a delay or something.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. So I just have to. We'll kind of bear with it until see what happens if it goes away. But so go ahead with your thoughts, dear Bishop.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Like I said, glad to be on here with you guys. I think we need forums like this, opportunities for people to share their thoughts. And like you said, I don't know where Matt or Demetrius, where they stand or where they come down on the issues, but hopefully we disagree on a few things because I love to hear different perspectives, and we can, help enlighten people in terms of what we believe and what we don't believe. So I think it's important. But as far as what I feel like could have been discussed more is immigration. I just think that we touched on it and then moved on. I think that we needed to go a lot deeper from both candidates in terms of what they're going to do when it comes to the border. As a person of color, I just think we're not putting the focus on immigration like we should.
Okay, Matt.
Well, what they did not cover, I was not surprised because um, what was on my mind was the details of each candidate's budget, and they did not seem to have them worked out in detail at all by that debate. At least they may have since then come up with more details, but by the debate, that budget barely got covered, and the reason the budget has been on my mind. Um, and it's not something that's going to win them the election. The details of a budget are boring, and it's not something that was going to make for a good debate at that time. So I understand why they didn't cover it. But our national debt is 120% of our GDP right now. When Greece defaulted 10 years ago or so, they were at 180% of their GDP. So we're closing in on that slowly. Now, we're not Greece yet. we will. I really do believe we will have a problem soon if we don't start balancing the budget, and that's going to mean some tough decisions by whoever gets in. And those aren't the things, of course, that will win you the election when you talk about making decisions that are going to hurt people.
Boy, you must have known about Demetrius, because here's the man of statistics. So when you start talking about numbers,
Right.
you know, I already see the little calculators going around.
Yeah, I am a man that likes data and statistics. So that would have been a great debate for me. I would have enjoyed watching that. But you're right, that's not good TV. And at the end of the day, they were producing a television program. And I had to remember that. I knew I wouldn't be satisfied, and I was not. And I had a list of things without digging in. I would have liked to have heard specifics, like Matt said, although I didn't expect, on gun violence. I'd have liked to talk about how we treat veterans. I would like to have heard stuff about mental health, right? I would have liked specifics, but it was a 90-minute TV show. So they were going to hit the things they hit in the way they hit them. I think the things I look for, and like you said, I'm a data guy. I have to go dig and find. And Matt dropped a couple of great nuggets about our deficit. You have to go get that. Matt didn't get that from the TV show. He went and found that data himself. He looked that up, because that's what that is. So we're talking about the debate, and I have to just be honest. My expectations were not high, and they did not exceed them. so it was a TV show. It was slightly entertaining, at times depressing, but it was a TV show at the end of the day.
Do you agree with that, Bishop?
Yeah, I do. And that's a big problem with politics in the United States, is we care more about entertainment than we care about information, than we care about the truth, than we care about solving the problem, than we care about uncovering the problem. We don't want to have the uncomfortable conversations. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Like you said, it was more about entertainment. It was more about views. It was more about pleasing their base. So, one thing that Matt said, and Demetrius too, and I agree with, is that when you start looking at the condition of our country, we just cannot continue the way we're going. We don't have the money. We don't have the money to feed everybody. We don't have the money to provide resources for everybody and send money to fund wars overseas. And I mean, it's out of hand.
Bishop, I'm going to have to.
And the delay is pretty bad between.
I'm going to have to kind of disagree with you there, Bishop.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What?
I'm going to have to kind of disagree with you there, because I believe that we have the money, but we're just putting it in the wrong places. I also agree with Matt. I mean, we are in a deficit, but I think if we cut back, for instance, maybe if we cut back on our military budget about 45%, maybe we could do some other things. I don't think it's a matter of not having the money. I think it's more of a matter of not putting the proper resources where they should be. I see we're joined here by Becky. Rebecca, how are you doing tonight, Rebecca? Maybe she just joined us. She hasn't come in yet. Matt, you want to
Okay.
maybe
Can I
wrap up
respond to that?
everything? Uh, excuse me. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead, Bishop.
Yeah. Can I?
Yes, you can. You can
Okay.
respond.
Yeah. If you have $100,000 of credit card debt and a relative asks you to borrow money, you don't have the money to give them as long as you owe the credit card company. So we are lending money to other people when we owe money to people. I'd be surprised if we actually still own America. I believe China and other countries have begun to buy land in New York. They've purchased land all throughout. We owe so much money to so many different avenues that we cannot afford to lend anybody anything. We've got to start paying our own bills. We've got to get out of debt.
I believe the last time I looked, it was like over 10% of our farmland is also owned by the Chinese. So, I definitely agree with you there. Matt, did you want to?
I think there's an immediate solution to not the full debt, but to the problem with the debt right now. We really don't want it to grow to 180% like Greece. That would be financially disastrous for them. It could be for us. But there is an immediate solution. And I think the immediate solution is simply to balance the budget right now, balance this year's budget, and then do the same next year. So at least the debt wouldn't be getting worse. But neither candidate addressed that in the debate, balancing the budget, because it brings up tough decisions that do not win elections.
I'm 77 and I could only remember one balanced budget in my lifetime, I believe. But Demetrius, come on, stat man.
No, I think again,
Right.
coming after both guys who are absolutely right. There is both a mentality of pay our own bills before we do other stuff, and then there is also the reality that Matt is talking about, which is to do it, you have to then sit in front of people who don't want to hear you talk about the word taxes. Because I will say to you that the number one revenue stream for a country or a state is income taxes. So I say if you drill it down and you're smarter with what and where you're spending, but also creating jobs, because people with jobs pay taxes, people without jobs don't pay taxes. So to me, if you tie it in and you think about it logically, yes, let's pay our own bills. Let's make a commitment that we're going to, and maybe you make a deal and say for every dollar we're going to send to someone else, we're going to put $2 toward something that we need to pay down. But it begins and ends with a balanced budget. That's just, there's literally no other way, right? There's literally no other way. And that is not fun. That's not a good entertaining TV show. It's just not. Nobody wants to watch that. So that's what we have relative to the debate. Now the conversations are had. The information is out there. It can be done, but then how do you tell your base, this is how I'm going to do it? And we're split. So no matter who does it, nobody said that. I think Matt said that. Nobody in the debate gave any specifics on balancing the budget, which is really the only answer.
Bishop, you were talking about immigration. So do we fix our immigration problem on the whole United States? I mean, all of our ports of entry, or do we just concentrate on the southern border?
All borders, every entry point, every line that leads outside of America. If you don't have borders, you don't have a country. I went to New Mexico State, and we used to always go into Mexico. We used to go into Juarez, Mexico. And let me tell you what, you don't just walk into Mexico. You go over there if you want illegally. And I guarantee you'll be in prison. That they do not play that. If you don't have an underground tunnel or something like that, you're not just going to walk into Mexico and walk out. They're very, very strict on their borders, but they let people come into America, no problem. But you can't go into Mexico. You can come out of Mexico. And that's because they understand you have to know who's entering your country. You have to be able to regulate the flow of individuals who have previous criminal backgrounds, who are what am I trying to say? Trafficking, who are trafficking young boys, young girls, drugs, fentanyl, all these different things are going in and out because our borders are not secure. Every country that has been successful has had a good border, and we're helping other countries strengthen their borders, and we're not strengthening our own border. It's got to become a priority.
Okay, now, but here's my problem. If you live in Canada, there are some places in Canada where the border is marked by a stick. So, I mean, literally, Canada is so vast that there are some places where the border is marked by a stick. So, what's your answer there? Are we going to put a fence across Canada or what? We're going to build another border wall?
Well, first of all, people are not. Yeah. First of all, people are not trying to get into Canada like they are America for obvious reasons. But Canada has secondary things that are in place that will prevent you from being successful living in Canada. See, in America, we've changed our mentality to where we give resources to people who may be here illegally. And I'm not talking about something I don't know. My mom came here as an illegal alien from Guyana. My dad came here as an illegal alien from Trinidad, right? And they were here and we lived a horrible life until they left me and my brother for a year and a half. My mom went back and got her citizenship and came back and did it right. And it changed our lives immediately. We're doing people a disservice when we allow them to live in this country illegally. We need to put the focus on those people who have paid the fees, who stood in the right lines, who have gone through the right process. We need to put the focus on getting them their citizenship instead of focusing on helping the people who have broken the law and come here illegally.
Good evening, Mr. Powers. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well, James. Had a little computer issue, but we straightened some of it out. Afternoon, gentlemen.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Very good. Very good.
I'm going to let some of the other gentlemen go through it.
Now, could y'all hear me?
Go ahead. Were you saying something, Bishop?
I said, did you hear me though? My answer?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We were talking about the border, Mr. Powers, you know, and, you know, whether or not we should strengthen all our borders or just the southern border. I'll kind of let the other gentleman feed in, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, very good.
Matt, what did you think?
Okay, well, my video was frozen, but can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all that matters. You don't need to see me. I really think that the process for processing migrants who want to come here and work is backed up or just is not efficient for a lot of people in that situation. I think it's great that Demetrius's mom was able to go back to Uganda and do it right. I don't know if there's that streamlined process for everyone that wants to come in here and contribute. And I think one thing that I thought Joe Biden could have done better is to process some of these these migrants, and I know they have to wait in line like everybody else, but we had all these open jobs at all levels coming out of the pandemic that needed to be filled. And we weren't processing people that wanted to come here and work fast enough to fill those positions. And that actually, I believe, contributed a little bit to our inflation. So it's not that of course we need to secure the borders, but we also need to have a direct, streamlined way to get immigrants here who want to contribute and work and fill these empty jobs.
Demetrius.
Yeah, so I think we conflate a couple of things. That's my struggle. And I would tell you I lean one way for sure, but I'm also closer to the middle than most. There is a process. What Matt's referring to, that process to become a natural U.S. citizen exists. Do we enforce it well? No. To the bishop's point, there are people who are here, and when they are taken in, it's simple. Are you in the process? You completed something called an N400. You get a biometric appointment. You go through an interview, you take a test, you take an oath, and you're a U.S. citizen. That's a process. It exists. Do we enforce it well? No, we don't. Because we listen to the rhetoric, not we like here on this podcast, but many people listen to the rhetoric, and there's this inherent idea that an immigrant is here committing a crime. They're raping and murdering. The reality is that the numbers don't match. The data says that they're coming here to make a better life for their kids, which is likely what your grandparents or great-grandparents did. The people who were standing up saying it's their country. And people that look like me were brought here against our will. We never have a choice. But the reality is the data doesn't match what they say. The most violent crimes in America, all due respect, Matt, is committed by white men, not immigrants. The most crimes against women are not committed by immigrants. They're committed by white men. And that's not a volume thing. That's a per capita thing. So there's no inherent connection between violent crime and immigrants, because immigrants generally are just trying to either escape a condition that wasn't suitable for them and their kids where they were, or to help their kids have a better future. So we've gotten to this thing now where we don't want to let anybody into America, which is in direct conflict with how the country was built and what we're supposed to be about. It's really about go through the process, enforce the process, which is what I think Matt was kind of saying. If you enforce the process and you just deport these people who don't come in and follow the process and do what they're supposed to do, then you get rid of them. But it's been conflated now to where being an immigrant means you're a drug dealer or a criminal. And the data doesn't actually support that. So it's tough for me to talk about it in that term, because one guy said he built a wall 9 years ago to solve this problem. I haven't seen a wall, and now we still have the same issue. I think it's more enforcement than closing borders and building walls. Enforce a process that exists, and it's actually pretty good and has worked for quite some time. And then people who don't follow the process get deported.
Rebecca, can you hear us?
I can.
How are you this evening?
I'm doing fine, gentlemen. How's everybody?
Good.
Excellent.
Good.
Awesome. I'm sorry, I'm shy. I can't do the camera thing. I don't have any makeup on, and
I don't got no makeup on either. What are we talking
no,
about?
right. But you know what? Shady Vance has enough for all of us.
Don't he know?
But I appreciate the invitation, James.
Him and Matt Gaetz put together.
Amen, brother.
So Rebecca, what did you think about the question?
So we're talking about immigration and whether or not it was should be just the southern border or all of the border. And
Right.
I
mean,
believe-
here in California, I think we got about 2,000 miles of ocean. So, I know we got a Coast Guard, but they ain't all in speedboats.
Exactly. Yep. I'm in Oregon, and we've got 363 miles of coastline, and I'm not exactly sure who said it earlier, but they're absolutely spot on. I think if I drove through the southwest of this country, I took 10 days to cross from Florida to Oregon for a job for my husband, who's a retired Leo. And I saw those signs. Most of those signs are not in English. That happens for a reason. We know, if we were being completely 100% factual about it, that our people, our own natively born American citizens, regardless of race, color, creed, religion, doesn't matter. Nobody is bending at the waist, picking anything for less than $25 an hour, unless it's $100 bills that they can keep. It's not happening. And that's just factual. It's just factual. And it's also factual that people have been crossing this border into this country since way before we were a country. And you're absolutely right. And Mr. Demetrius is dead on point. If we don't have a process, you might as well just pack up Liberty and ship her back to France, because that's what it says under her feet. This is what makes our country what it is, and it's just really, I think, preposterous of us to think that now me and my people are here, now we're full. It's ridiculous. I mean, we still throw away 30% of the food that we produce here every year. It's been that same number for decades. And we're not giving those people anything that we wouldn't be. Well, we're not willing to do it ourselves. The state, Texas and New Mexico and Arizona, they'd fold in a day. I mean, half of Southern California would just not show up for work that day. And we have to admit that these migrant folks are doing jobs that our own people will not do. Our own people can't do their own jobs because they're too busy getting hooked on fentanyl. And God knows what. Then you've got the basement dwellers that, want to live under mom and dad and let somebody else pay their car note and their insurance and anything else that the millennials can get away with. I didn't say that out loud. You know the millennial boomerang children I'm talking about.
Yes, you did.
We're rated MA. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
But we do have a man of the cloth here, so. Yeah.
We'll see. I'll behave myself. I'm gonna have to now. Shoot, but it's just frustrating that at the end of the day, the border is what the border, and it's always been, and it's always going to be a problem. Yep. What is so upsetting and frustrating for me is it seems like our most recent administration is being blamed for the influx and just the sheer number of people that are coming from South and Central America. And it's not like it's Biden or Harris's fault that the Venezuelan government collapsed.
Exactly.
Practically overnight. It took a little while for our sanctions to finally get through, but come on now. We know all of these governments are corrupt. They're all full of drugs. They're all the police, down to the armies, the militaries, all of it. And it's disingenuous for us to think that we've got our 250 years under our belt and we know what we're talking about. So just now we're full, we're good. We don't need any more, and Demetrius is also right. It's not the immigrants that are raping our women and children. It's our own people. It's always been, and it's just demonizing. It's just demonized. And it comes down to, it's nothing but simple racism, in my opinion. But what am I going to tell you? I'm just a simple white girl from Detroit. I'm serious.
Mr. Powers, I understand what everybody's saying here, but if I take a truck through the barrio and I tell them that I'm picking tomatoes, corn, green peas, or whatever, I can get a full truck of workers. If I take that same truck to, say, South Euclid, which is the hood, there's not too many people that's going to get on that truck. And certainly if I take it to Beverly Hills, I'm not going to get anybody on that truck. So what do you think? I mean, are we like fooling ourselves about this thing on the southern border, or should we have, something on all of our borders?
Well, having a previous military exercisable experience on the northern border, I would like to give you my 2 cents on that. And I don't think a whole lot of illegal activity is coming down through Canada into the United States. The last statistic I read was the influx of immigration was coming through the airport. Wasn't coming through people crossing into the United States. So as far as the northern portions from Maine across to Seattle, I don't think that there's a whole lot of problems with people crossing into the land. Our military isn't really too drastically concerned about that matter because there are American-born people on those borders, and personally, I don't think those are the people you want to talk to coming across illegally. I don't know what's going on southern border, why that's not an issue. Maybe too many people, or I should say too few people have too much land and they need to diversify or learn how to live with what's happening. Because I think down on the southern border, a military response is required. If they were serious about it, we would have the military on our southern border if we wanted to stop drugs from coming into the country. That's what I think.
Bishop.
Yeah, you know,
Response, Bishop?
I'm here in Texas. Yeah, I'm here in Texas. And what we're experiencing must be totally different than, you know, what you guys are experiencing or what Rebecca is experiencing, because we're experiencing trafficking at a level I've never seen, and I'm 60 years old.
Where are you, Bishop?
Missing.
Where are you? Okay.
He's where?
I'm in Dallas. Yeah.
Oh, Dallas.
Dallas?
Okay.
I'm in Dallas.
Okay.
Mhm.
I've been down to Brownsville all the way up to the UP. So I know there are different flows, there are different trains, routes that people take to move other people. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but there are people who do know of these routes, and there are lawful people in the process today shutting it down.
Go ahead, Bishop.
Well, you know, I'm not saying that everybody who's an immigrant is going to kill, murder, steal. I'm not saying that.
Right.
Like I told you, my mom and dad were both illegal immigrants when they came here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that. But if you open up your front door and say anybody can come in and stay with me, and 100 people come in and stay in your house, but one person decides to kill your kids and rape your wife, that's all it took was the one. That's all it took was the one. And so when we have open borders like this, what we're not realizing is we don't know who's coming in and we don't know who's here already. And that is a problem. And I heard Rebecca say that, you know, we can't blame Biden and Kamala Harris, but the thing is that when President Trump, former President Trump was saying, hey, the border is unsecured, they were telling him he's lying. And they were saying to America, the border is secure. The border is secure. And he kept saying it's not secure. That's a problem. When the president of the United States is either lying to us or doesn't know.
Well, I have a question for you. Why didn't we stop or engage in immigration after World War I? Why did we let all these Germans come over here and start happy lives? Why did we let all the those who were part of the Holocaust come over here We
Any
ended the
country
war
in
over
Europe.
there. Why couldn't we give them Germany?
Exactly. Anybody.
Hold on, gentlemen. We
Yeah.
can't all talk at one time.
That's my fault. That's my fault.
Go
So
ahead.
I'm not trying to diminish the processes that were taken in to take care of other people after a time of war. However, we have our fingers in different governments in order to bring about a hopefully compassionate end. I would like to believe our country just doesn't go to war with people who have different ideologies. I would like to believe our country goes to war to protect those who have no ability at war. But I've seen both sides, and I've read up on some of our inabilities to balance that scale. But when it comes to the safety,
Do you see what I'm wearing here? When you talk about the inequalities of war,
yes, yes, we can do an uplift for Germans who were killed over in Germany because they wanted to control another culture and make sure that that culture didn't rise again. But yet we in the United States, what was that called? Where they just started throwing food and clothes and whatever they needed over there in Germany. They just started hauling all that over to them. And they started shipping those people who they considered smart people, scientists and religious observers. And once the war was over, they let them come over here. Even some of the soldiers that were torturing over in Germany got a ticket over here.
Okay, Bishop wants to respond, Mr. Powers.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, without a doubt, after World War II and really prior to 1968, everything that was immigration wise was very color based. It was very discriminatory. I agree with you there. I agree with you there. But the people who are leaving and going through our southern border, many of them are not being persecuted. I have Hispanic individuals who worked for me who, and you know what? Companies here in Texas will tell you, you can't do anything at Christmas. You can't do anything at Thanksgiving. You can't do anything because everybody leaves and goes back to Mexico to celebrate with their family. You don't go back to a place that you're being persecuted.
But how many people go back to Guatemala and Venezuela and Costa Rica? Those are the places where they're being persecuted.
Yeah, and what I'm saying though is that,
I mean, did we not
and
have?
so once they get for them to get to America, they've come through.
Did we not have the same immigration problem under President Bush? No, I was asking, did we not have the same immigration problem under President Bush, both Bushes, Obama? I mean, way before President Trump came. I mean, did we not?
Not to the level we have now. We have a lot of people coming from Central America and some of South America, because they fear for their lives down there. The south of the border has been taken over by the drug cartels. The governments of even Chile is being threatened seriously by these drug cartels. I'm for securing the border because of the fentanyl smuggling epidemic that's killing tens of thousands of Americans. That said, we should have a streamlined situation for these migrants to come here and work when we have open jobs, like we did right after the pandemic. That would have contributed to the economy. It would have been taken one problem and helped solve the other.
See, there's another phrase that was used earlier: ports of entry. I have not heard of one immigrant being caught with a ton of fentanyl on his back.
Yes, but it's being snuck across the border. So if you're asking if we need to secure the borders, I would say yes, we need to secure the borders.
What I'm saying is that the majority of the drug problem comes in through ports of entry, not across on immigrants' backs. So if you want to stop the drug problem, you have to cut it off at the ports of entry. So once again, I'm asking, are we going to just close off the southern border, or are we going to close all of our borders?
The problem is political rhetoric has conflated those two things. They have attached immigration and the drug problem as if they're the same issue, and they're not. Solve the drug problem. Work on the drug problem. Every immigrant, like you said, doesn't have fentanyl in his backpack. But if we're going to operate in a world, all due respect to the pastor, I wouldn't let 100 anybody in my house. But if you're going to let 100 immigrants into your house, you're right. One of them is a problem. But the statistics say your neighbor across the street or your cousin or some dude I play softball with is much more likely to come into my house and assault my family than an immigrant. That's what it feels like to me. So we've conflated immigration and the drug problem, the cartel problem, as the same problem. And I don't think they are. As long as if you look at them as one problem, then you and I will never agree. I think they're two wholly separate issues with absolutely zero connection. And that's just how I think of them.
Go ahead, Bishop.
Yeah, I would agree with that they are two different problems. They are. But the thing is that in order for you to fix the flow of drugs, the flow of trafficking of human beings across the border, you got to secure it.
Yeah.
That's just plain and simple. And so when we have one thing that I definitely agree with Trump on was the wall. And the wall, people say, well, walls don't stop immigration. Nothing's going to stop it 100%. But if it's going to keep one child, if it's going to keep one mother, going to keep one daughter from being trafficked across the border, to me, that's a win. So we build a wall, finish the wall, because, Trump started it, Biden stopped it. If we finish the wall, that's going to make a difference. If you've ever been to the wall, it makes a difference.
Yeah, but the wall isn't the issue because they did tunnels.
It's not a wall.
Because they what?
That's not a wall issue. They dig tunnels.
It's not really a wall. You're not, if it was an actual wall, it would work, especially if Mexico paid for it.
Not if they got a tunnel that goes underneath it. It's not going to work. You got to stop the tunnels. You got to knock them tunnels out.
Well, we can always, find a way to get around the wall or whatever. That's not what I think Bishop is talking about. What he's saying is that it's a preventive measure. We're not saying that it's going to be 100% effective.
Okay.
He's talking about a preventive measure.
You're saying aesthetically we should show them that we're pretty.
Make it look good.
Yeah.
No. What I'm saying is that China, Japan, Russia, Sweden, they figured out how to secure their borders. Why can't we?
Not one of those countries built a wall that was effective.
Yeah. China didn't build that wall.
But because they have other measures that are in place, we're not willing to do the other things. So we need to do a wall. Is first of all, like you said, we're never gonna prevent everybody from sneaking into America, because America is the promised land, so to speak, for many immigrants. It's a land of opportunity, and so they want to come here. So they're going to sneak in. They're going to do whatever they need to do. But if we incentivize doing it legally. Make it where the process actually works. Let's get rid of all the red.
I think you should
Yeah, let's get
benefit the people who were here first, before there were immigrants, who were living, minding their own business, worshiping the Most High, taking care of their children, farming. Let's the United States government back them up first, and then we'll take on what the immigrants are wanting to do. But
Are you
until
talking
the
about-
United States government looks at the light and looks in the mirror and says, dang, we got to solve this. We're just going to continue to have decent conversations about it.
So are you talking about the Native Americans?
No, I'm talking about the indigenous Americans. The Native Americans didn't have a treaty with the United States government. The indigenous Americans did. Why do you think they wanted to wipe those people out? Because they knew they weren't the original people of the land. But then at the same time, you got kings and queens saying none of the people who are living on the land are owners of the land. And they didn't even have the land on their maps before they even came over here.
Well, that's a conversation for a different show.
Okay, I get it, but I'm just sharing that we're talking about solutions for the southern border. And some of the solutions for the southern border require a military response.
Okay, all right. Now, let's we can kind of come back to that because I got a couple more questions I want to give to the panel, and I'll leave some time for us to have a little roundtable discussion here. So, healthcare is a major talking point of this campaign. What did you think about the candidates' answers to that subject, Demetrius?
Well, in general, remember this is a TV show, so you weren't getting much. I thought Trump mentioned the concept of a plan is what he talked about. It would change only if he came up with something better and less expensive. I think that conversation in a political environment currently is going to revolve around the Affordable Care Act most of the time. And honestly, the Republicans had really shifted away from trying to repeal it, talking about repealing it. But Trump made a statement, October, November last year, said, when I'm reelected, he's going to continue to go after it. I think what Kamala is going to talk about consistently is a commitment to maintaining the Affordable Care Act. She's going to talk about making insulin affordable and Medicare. And the reality is, I've seen studies, I'm not saying it's the only study, and it could be jaded, that over 60% of Americans are in favor of the Affordable Care Act. But maybe it's just a nickname that it's called Obamacare by some. We will see if he goes after it. Most healthcare conversation amongst these two people going to center around the Affordable Care Act, in my opinion. And it just depends on where you stand and where you are socioeconomically, probably how you feel about it. As far as in the debate, I thought they stayed high level. Nobody got into any type of granularity, gave any real details. But again, I didn't expect that. You have to be like Matt. You're gonna have to go find that answer somewhere because nobody's gonna be comfortable enough to say that in front of a camera.
What did you think, Matt?
I would say that if we disassemble the Affordable Care Act like Trump wants to do, the healthcare industry is going to get at least as top heavy as it was when Barack Obama moved that money around to prevent it from collapsing under its own weight and bringing the entire economy down with it. It would have been a disaster if that type of health care that we had continued in the way it was. All Obama did was he moved money around, but it worked to prevent it from collapsing. If we disassemble that, it's going to go right back to the bureaucracy it was before, the private sector bureaucracy it was before, and you're going to see many people losing their homes when they need an operation. It would affect the entire economy, in my opinion.
Rebecca, what did you think?
I Well, like it's already been. I wasn't expecting much because it's not exactly an incredibly popular, conversation to have to have. Frankly, I was disappointed that real questions weren't even tried to be answered by any. Well, that's a whole other, like you said, it's a whole nother topic for a whole nother show. But we're the only industrialized country in the first world that does healthcare this way.
Yep.
And I don't know why we think we need another 10, 20 years to try and figure out what doesn't work. And everywhere else, it seems like people take a vow to want to heal each other and heal people because they want to be good people and do good things, not necessarily because they want to have a 6-7 figure income. And it's unconscionable to me that we can't seem to provide even just incredibly basic care. And the saddest thing is the people that need those services the worst are eligible naturally, but they don't even have any regular doctors, so they end up going. They don't seek out healthcare clinics. You know what I mean? They go to the emergency room, which is outrageously expensive. And it's nothing smart about it. Nothing is smart about the way we look at healthcare in this country. Thank God Obama did what he did when he did it, because the Affordable Care Act is incredibly important to me and my family. And I know many families that it's a fact, but just taking away the pre-existing condition point was a game changer for millions of Americans. I think I knew a person that absolutely loathed the job that they had, but they had to stay in it because their spouse needed their health care so badly that they would put up with a job they absolutely couldn't stand simply for healthcare. And it's a shame. It's just, I don't understand how we can be this smart and be this stupid at the same time.
Mr. Powers.
I just think both candidates are disingenuous when it comes to American health. They both are seated. One was seated in a position to get it done, and he didn't. The other is seated at a vice president position, and we're still having this conversation. I don't think people recognize what other tiers are trying to do and healthcare is a part of, I believe, the Daughters of the Confederacy's plan to kill off the people that they consider undesirable. So, if we wanted to heal the nation, we could, but that doesn't pay.
Bishop.
Well, like everybody or most people said, I didn't hear enough in the debate to really know where each one stands. Son Powers, he said something there, and I know there's a lot more to that. I'm not going to get into it. And then Rebecca, I would agree with you that the move on pre-existing illnesses, that was big. I'll give Obama credit for that. That was a very positive thing. However, I've been on Obamacare, and at least here in Texas, it was so expensive and nobody took it. Every doctor that I went to didn't accept it. And we got to a place where we had to just drop it and get on my wife's insurance. As a pastor, I didn't have a job that I was working at the time. And so we tried to do Obamacare, but it was super expensive. And most of the doctors we called wouldn't take it for us or our children. So I don't see the benefit of it. And I'm not, saying that what you said about those testimonies you gave are not true. I'm just saying my situation that I've seen that Obamacare is not the answer, but the answer, like I said, Trump hasn't given it, neither has Kamala Harris.
That's maybe it's a Texas thing, because I know out here just today, I paid $1.26 for my prescription that would have normally cost me $29.75 75, I think it was.
That would be covered California that's doing that. That's our state that's helping on that one. I don't know about Texas.
Yeah, it's a thing. I'm a type 2 diabetic, and one insulin pen that would cost me $500 only cost. I can get 5 of them for $55. But if I can quote my friend Rebecca, I'm just a random dude from Flint, Michigan. I don't know. Maybe it's special to me. I don't know.
That's what it is. The Michigan people. It's the Michigan people.
The Michigan people. It might be a Michigan thing. I don't know.
That's right.
I know that for diabetics in this country, the Affordable Care Act is a big deal. It's a massive deal for diabetics in this country. Agreed.
Yeah, I'm type 2 as well, and my insulin products are a lot less expensive now. And I mean, I'm glad that we have some coverage. The only thing that's affordable about that plan is in the title, because it's not affordable, but it's something.
It's a step.
Okay. Let's see. Reverend, I'm going to come to you with this one, Bishop, because you were talking a lot about crime and the people coming across the border. But I have a question for you. Should someone be allowed on the ballot if a convicted felon has lost their privilege to vote? And do you think that Congress should pass a congressional amendment to keep this from happening again?
Okay. You know, my thing is that I'm not a fan of changing rules and laws for one person. The law right now says that that is not a condition or a requirement to be president. And it has been like that since this country started. And as a Black man, I've seen how laws can be changed and exceptions made for people they don't like. And it's obvious they don't like President Trump. They don't like him. And I'm not in favor of that, because one day that could be me. I don't want them changing rules and laws for one person. And in all these years we've been doing it like this, it has not been a problem. And so if the people vote for somebody who is a convicted felon, that's the deciding factor. Let the vote be the determining factor.
But Bishop, we've never had anyone with 34 felonies run for president. Don't we take that into consideration?
Nope.
No,
Yes.
because we already have.
Oh,
The rule
That's
has.
like,
go ahead, Bishop.
yeah, I mean, that's like saying we're going to have a race, and then when you see who lines up to run in the race, you say, well, hold on, let's change the rules. So you have to wear these color shoes, and you have to wear this color jersey, and you have to. No, when I entered, these were the rules. See, when Trump entered.
I think you forgot the question there, Bishop. The question was, should a convicted felon be allowed to run for the highest office in the land when I don't know, maybe Florida might be different, but in the majority of states, he's not even allowed to vote. That was the first part of the question.
The U.S. Constitution has that solution.
And that's not saying, I didn't say President Trump. I said a convicted felon, whether it be President Trump, whether it be the guy after him or whatever. That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Should a convicted felon be allowed for president when he can't vote?
And what I was saying is the Constitution already tells us what the requirements are to run for president. And so whether it's Trump or me or anybody, it should not matter as long as they fill all the other requirements. Now, if we want to vote on it, look at it for the future, okay.
No.
But I believe it hasn't been a problem this far. And there are some good people
Hold on,
who have gone to prison. There are some good people who have gone to prison who we found out later on they were not guilty. There are some people who have been, and as a Black person, I know this better than anybody. I've got an uncle who was convicted of rape, and he served 10 years until this woman came out and said she lied. And then he was set free after 10 years. So I I'm not a fan of changing the rules to prohibit people from getting an opportunity when the deciding factor is the vote. That's the thing. If you can win the election, Marion Barry style in California, if you can win the election even after you've been arrested on drug charges, so be it. The people voted for you.
Mr. Powers, you had some objections there.
Oh, heavily. Yes, I object heavily. There are already statutes on the books that says he shall not or they shall not hold any office of public trust. The Donald John Trump, has been convicted 34 times by a jury of his peers. Donald J. Trump should be in jail as we speak. He should not be running for any office of trust in the United States of America. Why is he running for an office when he has been convicted by his peers in a court of law 34 times? P. Diddy can't even get bail. He ain't even been convicted yet. The man can't even get out of jail.
There are no rules blocking criminals for running. I mean,
Okay.
there are no rules blocking them from being a candidate with a criminal record.
Let me try this again.
That's in the
Let me try this again.
Constitution.
Hold on.
Let me.
I am a convicted felon, and I can tell you
Hang on.
that convicted felons are not, as he said, you cannot hold an office of public trust. I cannot hold an office where I can determine where public funds go. I still
Right.
have the right to vote, but
Yeah.
I can't hold an office. But I could
Well-
never be mayor of San Diego.
Did
We're
you
missing something
serve
here,
time, James?
Excuse me?
Did you serve time?
Yes, sir.
You did. You are
Yes,
no
sir.
longer a convicted felon.
No,
You
well,
should not have any document saying you're a convicted felon because you served your time. You
Yeah.
put in the time for the dishonorable action that they convicted you of. Trump has not served one day of his conviction, not one.
There's a process that you have to go through in order
Yeah.
for you to be able to
But
get your voting rights back. But hold
Yes.
on, I see Demetrius has his hand.
Well, I think both Becky and Matt have something to say too. So I'll wait to the end if they want to go, but I'll go after that. I love this. I love this.
The United States Constitution, if I may, overrides the local laws if the Supreme Court were to get a hold of this case. And it says that Donald Trump may run for president. So in fairness, since he can run as a felon for the highest office of the land, then I personally believe that everyone under him should at least be able to vote if they have a felon as well.
I don't know if this will let me do it, but let me see.
Rebecca.
Yes. Absolutely not. I think am I answering the question right the way you asked it? Absolutely not. He shouldn't be allowed to run. I just feel that the documents that created this country almost 250 years ago never dreamed in a million years that we would have an individual like 45 come up out of the dregs of society and think that it's okay to do this. I mean, the man isn't qualified to sit on a school board in an elbow of Kentucky in the poorest country in this, the sorriest county that with the one-room schoolhouse. I'm sorry, he's not. He's a failed businessman. He's a failed president. He gave us $8 trillion almost in new debt. He killed thousands, tens of thousands of our countrymen. We don't even want to talk about January 6th. It's unconscionable that this person might be able to run for an office that he might not be able to vote for himself in. It's not sensible. It's not sensible. And we not only do we need ethics or something for the presidency, We need one for SCOTUS. We need one for every law. We shouldn't have lobbying. We shouldn't have criminals that are, Congress people, but they're there too. It's all ridiculous. But for anybody to pretend that this election is normal and this type of behavior is absolute. I mean, I'm with you in the respect of not wanting to pass laws because of one person. But I think back in our ball and musket days of making these documents, we never dreamed that we would be this insipid and this stupid, that somebody would be so full of themselves that they would consider running and that we would be dumb enough to vote for them.
Demetrius, you have the floor.
Yeah, so I'm gonna separate the two because that's my cop out. I would never support a piece of legislation that said a felon couldn't run. But your first question was, should one be allowed? My answer is no. But I 100% agree with Pastor Tull in that at the end of the day, it's about the votes, right? I'm more concerned that 70 million of our countrymen don't give a damn that he's been convicted 34 times. That's the actual problem, is that they're okay with it. But in this country, all 75 million of them have their right to cast their vote just like mine. That is where I will not support legislation that says he can run. And if we were right, if we were living our lives the right way and following the word, we wouldn't vote for this. There's no world. I don't even care. I mean, you guys can know where I stand. You probably figured it out. No way, right? Because it should be a higher calling. It should be something that we value. It should be. I think Becky's point of, if he was running for the school board in Flint, Michigan, he wouldn't get my vote. Not at all. Grossly underqualified, and we should hold each other to a higher standard. The standard we probably hold ourselves to. The standard we hold those we love. 70 plus million people don't give a damn that he's a horrible human being. And they're going to vote for him, right? That's the real problem. Well, and voter suppression, right? Voter suppression is a problem we should talk about at some point. But I think put him on the ballot. I would rather he be on the ballot and lose than to get him taken off the ballot. To me, that's a better win to me. So, go ahead. I think Bishop wanted to follow up, or maybe he was just agreeing with me. I don't know.
Go ahead, Bishop.
No. Well, I wanted everybody to go ahead and say, I don't want to hog it. So after everybody's gone, then you call me.
I'm good.
No, everybody's gone. Matt, Rebecca, everybody gave. So go ahead. You can,
Yeah. Well, the thing is that a lot of people, and I've spoken to many of them, feel like the charges are the result of the Democratic Party prosecuting their political competition. And so that's why they don't view this as he's disqualified. That's number one. Number two, as a pastor, I can tell you biblically, you cannot support voting for Kamala Harris. Biblically, you cannot support voting for the Democratic Party when they are in direct opposition biblically. And like you say, Brother James, that's a conversation for a different day, but I'd love to have it with any of you when you're available. And so,
remember I invited you back, Bishop. So we're definitely going to have that conversation.
Good.
Okay.
But go ahead. Was there something else that you wanted to
add? But
add?
I do. Well, and I do believe that felons should be able to vote just because they're still Americans. And as long as they're Americans, they should have a voice. And that's not something I personally believe, but it's something that I don't think we can justify as a country saying they don't have a voice anymore. So I do believe they should be able to vote, but kind of like Brother Demetrius said, I wouldn't prefer it, but I'm not going to make a law saying they shouldn't, even though I know right now they can't. I know they can't right now. So, but a lot of what I'm hearing about Trump as a horrible human being and he's this and he's that and he's the other thing, we have to remember he's not running against Jesus Christ. If he was going against Jesus Christ, then I would tell you, vote for the pure one. but it's everybody, every man has sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Kamala Harris is no saint. Okay. You talk about Trump. Well, you know, Kamala has done her adulterous things too. So we have to really separate that, and we have to look at what is going to be their policies, what are they going to do for America, and what are they going to do for, with me, the church. And one thing I do know is that in the Bible, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want you to finish that because I have something to ask you.
Okay. Yeah. One thing I do know is that when God spoke to Pharaoh, who Pharaoh was symbolic of president, king of that time, he didn't tell him, I want you to stop sinning. He didn't tell him, I want you to serve me. He didn't tell him, I want you to do this or that. What he said is, I want you to create an environment where my people are free to worship me. That's what he said. Let my people go so they can worship me. We should be voting for the candidate that creates an environment where we can pray freely, where we can worship God freely, where we can openly say we're Christians without being oppressed, where we can pray in school, where we can pray at work, as long as we don't offend somebody with our prayers. And that's not what you're going to get with the Democratic Party.
Sure it is.
So
it is.
wait a minute. I want to ask this because I don't want to go off into religion. I'm a PK, and it's a subject that's very like kind of pricks me. But anyway, so getting back to this convicted felon thing, we don't have a third party in America. So should all of the prisoners, should we make that the third party in America? I mean, they have enough numbers.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm
it's an idea.
The bishop just said that everyone in America should have the right to vote. So I'm asking, okay, Demetrius, you said good luck with that.
No, I don't have a problem with that. You can. And people, I'm not someone who thinks that the two-party system is a failure, because I don't think anybody ever said this was easy. Building this democracy was hard. Protecting this democracy multiple times in years-long wars has always been hard. A two-party system, you still have a choice. And I don't know that anybody who may in fact vote Democrat would ever stand in front of a microphone and say Kamala Harris is perfect. I don't think it's got to be Trump versus Jesus. I think it's one versus another, and you have to make your choice. That's what it is at the end of the day. And it might be a hard choice for some people. For others, not so much. I'm not voting against Donald Trump. I'm not. I'm voting for Kamala Harris. That is a big thing. Other people are voting against. So to me, you can put a bunch of convicted felons on the ballot. Congratulations, I guess. I'm not voting for you unless you have policies on 15 to 20 platform issues that I believe are important for what this country is. And when I sit down and I look, there are fundamentally two parties. And I look at their ideology, I look at their policy history, and I look at the character of the human being. And if I think one is a sinner who's made as many mistakes as the rest of us, and I believe the other one is a horrible human being, I'm still going to look at their policies. That's just my opinion. And it's only informed by me and my work and my diligence. I will vote the way I vote based on 15 to 20 different platform issues that I think matter to 260 million people, not just me or the 50 people I care about in this world. Because there are things that won't impact me. Women's reproductive rights will never impact me. Gun violence will never impact me. I'll never own a gun. But I care about all those issues because for a lot of reasons. At the end of the day, you can vote for who you want. You can put anybody on the ballot. I don't really care. I'm going to do my diligence and vote my heart. I'm going to vote my data, what I think is best for the whole country. All 260 million people, not just me. That's just how I vote. And that's the beauty, is that nothing Pastor Tull said was wrong. He has a right and almost an obligation to think and vote exactly the way he said. So does Becky, so does Son, so does Matt, so do you. That's what actually makes the whole thing work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mr. Powers.
Yeah.
I still stand with the man cannot run. Not just because of the 34 actionable convictions upon his head right now. He was impeached twice by Congress for actions stemming from the January 6th insurrection. And I think a lot has to do with the ability to engage competently upon the statutes that do stand, and one of them being treason, of which I believe Donald Trump is earned that title, and only solely because he filled the definition of that word. And in Article 3, Section 3, it states, treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, which January 6th did, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort, which people on January 6th have. No person shall be convicted of treason unless of the testimony of 2 witnesses. And we have that. And we have it in open court. So it says in this law, in this statute, 18 USC statute 2381, under this title, shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. Shall be incapable. That's black and white. Now, we just have to find somebody who has doesn't have comprehension issues. I'm not talking about the pastor. I'm talking about people who are in the offices of authority to do what the words say to do. That is to lock him up. He's supposed to get death, but you can lock him up for the rest of his life. That's fine. I don't have a problem with people like Kamala Harris, who I believe is an Indian, and I believe she embraces her father's positions. He's a Marxist. Okay? That's just who he is. And she was raised underneath him. And she wasn't raised in this country. She was raised in Canada. She's an Indian. When I say Indian, from India. So I'm not her best friend. She's not mine. She didn't knock on my door. None of them did. So what I do to exercise my conscience when it comes to voting, I'll share this openly. Even though it's private, I'll share it with you. Whoever they put on the ballot, I line their names out. They're not my people. I line their names out. I write in the name of the Most High. That's who I vote for. Now, when he comes, y'all not gonna like him because he gonna do what you should have done. When I say you, I don't mean you. I'm not trying to identify the panel. I'm saying the Creator is going to take his place upon the earth. And he don't care about the Kamala Harrises. He don't care about the Donald J. Trumps and their positions of wanting to maintain power over a humble people, which the American people are. They're very humble. They are very giving. They're very loving and gracious people. And if you, when I say you, I mean people out there in the universe that's listening. If you didn't get the memo, why are you coming over here? Because that's who we are. That's who we are. So, and we also turn that other way too, because we're like, you're not going to step on me. But there are people who want to step on us, and they're flooding the southern border, and they're mixing up the messages, and the American peoples are getting mixed signals. And then these people are going to rise up and they're going to say, well, we need to instruct you on what you need to do next. Because the American people didn't stand on what was already written in the book. Donald J. Trump should be in jail. I'll say it again. Donald J. Trump and his accomplices, I'll go further. His accomplices, even his family members, should be locked up in jail. Guantanamo Bay is still open. Send them there. I have no, look, as much love as the American people have shown me in my life, I have very little tolerance for people who want to bring that down. I just don't know how to resolve the grace and the compassion and the love I received, the hospitality of the people who are reflecting my lineage, my peoples. I don't know. When I saw what was happening on January 6th, yeah, it came time to arm up because we should not be tolerating that. But nobody wants to step in the grainy sand and walk on water and say, this is not to be tolerated. Nobody's saying that.
Let me get Rebecca and
I'm sorry, I'm emotional right now on that. I'm sorry.
And Matt in here before I get Demetrius. Rebecca, what's your thoughts here?
He's an adjudicated rapist. That's a fact. And he doesn't need to be there. He doesn't need to be there. And I mean, if in some states he couldn't vote for himself, right there telling you.
Well, wait a minute. I think we're getting away from the question.
I'm sorry.
The question was, since we don't have a third party, and everyone is saying that they think that it's all right for convicted felons to vote, should we have a third party that consists of the prisoners in all of the prisons around the United States? I mean, America is what, number 4 or 5 in the world for the number of people we have in prisons. I mean, that's certainly what I think would constitute a party.
Works for me. I mean, I can see that. I mean, at the end of the day, these folks that are, I mean, they're serving their time, and I suppose they could make up their own party. I guess the travesty is we're still stuck with the 2-party system regardless. But should prisoners? Yeah, actually, I think they should. I think they should.
What do you think, Matt?
Well, I think the way things are structured right now, it really would depend on the state. For instance, in California, I, as a Democrat, could certainly go join a third party and even vote that way, and it wouldn't make a darn bit of difference. My state's going to go blue. Yeah. But in a state like Pennsylvania, for instance, when we're talking about convicted felons who can't vote, gosh, they could make the difference in the election. So I don't think there should be a third party for them. I think there needs to be a national law put into place, taking the hint from the national constitution that a felon should be able to vote, whether it's Democrat or Republican. We put them in a third party, you're actually going to be subduing their voice a little bit. They're going to make more of a difference in one of the 2 main parties.
Well, they could, but if you've got 20 million prisoners voting for, say, John Wayne Gacy, it might make a difference. But
good point. Good point.
go ahead, Demetrius. I make light of it, but I'm serious.
I know.
Begs the question of the Electoral College.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I think that your underlying point is well taken. I think that slightly off topic, but I think it's important to say I am comfortable with anybody's opinion. I do not struggle especially opinions that differ from mine, because in general, I either disagree with them and it strengthens what I believed already, or they enlighten me, which also strengthens my opinion. But we have to work in fact. That's my only, James, you know me well enough to know that facts and data matter to me. So the only thing I got to say is Kamala Harris, and her name is Kamala. It's not Camilla. It's not Kamala. It's Kamala. It's easy to say. I don't know why anybody struggles with it, but okay. Kamala Harris was born in Oakland, California. She was raised in Urbana, Illinois, and Madison, Wisconsin. These are documented facts, right? And then she moved back to Northern California. We can have opinions about whatever we want. Let's at least not make up new facts, right? Her name is Kamala. That's easy. She was born in Oakland. It's documented. Why do we question now where people were born? All of a sudden, you got to prove. There are hospital records at Hurley Medical Center in Flint, Michigan that tell you where I was born. And that's a fact. It's documented. Somebody can't just walk up and go, oh, wait, he's from Canada. I like Canada. Probably wouldn't bother me that much. But we can work with opinions. Opinions can be different. When we're going to now start changing facts, what are we doing? What's the point of all this if we're just going to make up facts to fit our narratives? Like, I'm fine with a person who wants to vote for Donald Trump, who doesn't agree that Kamala Harris is a perfect person. All those things are fine. That's what makes it great. But when we're out here telling other people things that aren't factually true, impacting the opinions of other people with false narratives and just inaccuracies, that's doing a disservice to everybody. That's doing it because somebody out there believes she was born in Canada and her dad's a Marxist. Okay, they can believe that if they want, but I don't understand that part. I don't.
Well, her father, I mean, I think that's kind of documented, is that her father was a Marxist, but that has nothing
to do with her.
Right, yeah.
Had nothing to do with her.
Yeah. My father was a Baptist minister, but
my father was a whole lot of things I don't want to tell y'all about.
Yes, he was those too, but he put on that robe every Sunday. But but anyway, Bishop, do you have any questions that you would like for the panel?
Shouldn't we be calling him pastor? We've called him Rev and Bishop and all kinds of other stuff, and it says pastor right here on the screen.
Well, the thing is that I am an ordained bishop. That's why. So online, it refers to me as bishop. Yeah. But and I pastored for 20 years. And so I know I use the title pastor because most people are more comfortable with that, especially my Caucasian brothers and sisters. So that's why I normally say pastor. But that Demetrius, I was glad to hear you say you're voting for Kamala because you like Kamala. You're not voting against Trump, which I feel like is the hate vote. I don't love Kamala, but I hate Trump, so I'm going to vote for her. So I'm glad to hear you say that. I think that, Brother Son, I like him because he seems he knows who he is. And I like that about you. But I do think you're a little bit unfair in the way that you say, Trump should be in prison, and you're tying what happened January 6th to President Trump, because when you look at what happened, he said peacefully and patriotically, go down there. And so I don't think it's fair to hold people accountable for what they do if you don't give them direct instructions. Just like right now, I don't think it's fair for people to say that because Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party, and I'm sorry, man, if I said her name wrong. Maybe it's the Texas in me. But I'm trying to say it right. I'm really not trying to be disrespectful. But, they're saying Trump is Hitler and he's a threat to democracy. It's not their fault that somebody has tried to shoot him because of that statement. I don't think it's fair for you to blame them. Joe Biden, I don't think it's fair to blame him. He says it all the time that he's a threat to democracy. He's Hitler. I don't think it's fair for you to blame him, just like I don't think it's fair for us to blame Trump for what those people did based on him making a speech where he never said, go do that. He told them to peacefully and patriotically. And
I'd like to respond.
Oh, okay, you can. But as we get to the as we get to the end of, you know, I really love the fact that everybody was very respectful. Everybody listened to everybody. They made great points. I got to be honest with you. Listening to Brother Demetrius is what kind of gave me comfort in saying, you know what, we should let felons vote. We should. I had not really thought a whole lot about it before now, and I thought, you know what, we should let them vote, even though I don't. You know, I'm not a felon, and I don't. You know, so anyway, I just wanted to say that we need to make sure we're fair in our assessments of both candidates. If we're going to be hard on one, let's be hard on the other. If we're going to look for character in one, we're going to look for character in the other. And that's all I'm saying.
Go ahead, Mr. Powers.
Okay. I agree. We should be fair with facts. I got USA Today. Is that all right? USA Today? That's pretty good factual newspaper, right?
Sure.
Okay.
It depends on who's writing, but
I'll have to. I have no problems pulling back with information. I usually go with three to four things to back up what I say. I may not say it in a manner that comes across as acceptable. I apologize because I'm not that learned guy. Like, you know, I do like reading things, but I can fall short. Having said that, I did find where Kamala Harris, when she was 12, did move with her mother to Canada. She spent a considerable time there from 12 to graduating high school in Canada, Montreal. She graduated in 1981. And then she came back. Okay, I agree. She wasn't born in Canada. I didn't know it. I gave that impression. I will pull back from that statement. But my information is she spent time in her formidable raising years in another country, which was not the United States. Trump. Donald Trump had time to produce a campaign which gave the country probable cause. Okay? Plenty of probable cause of who he is and what he's about and what he wants to do. He may not have said it in his function as the President of the United States. However, his campaign and his duty as President of the United States is defined in one word: treason. I can't find another word for that man. Until we have someone in the Hill, well, I can't say that because Congress, they impeached him twice. So he was convicted. So, and those 148 people that did not allow the vote to go through, that voted against the vote to go through, those 148 also under that umbrella. I want them gone. I want them out the country. I don't want them holding no public office in this country. I want the people in Georgia who ran that rigged election against the governorship, Kemp. I want him kicked out. I want him in Guantanamo. I can go down to Florida and say the same thing. I can look. Flint, Michigan ain't got no water. They ain't got no water plant yet. They sent the money to them. Obama sent the money to them, didn't he?
Yeah, they're getting their checks. Do you think this is a reasonable expectation? I know. I just what you want.
That's
Actually happen in our country. Do you actually think
we
any of the
can't
stuff you
have
just laid out is
we
reasonable?
we can't have a reasonable expectation with unreasonable people.
You think you're reasonable?
You can't look and say the sun is shining when somebody over here is saying, no, that's just the moon. It's going away in 53 days.
Okay. Rebecca,
just-
what's your thoughts on this? Or your final
Um,
thoughts?
As far as Mr. Powers nailed it. I mean, one word is treason. That there's no other way to sum up that administration. He had 4 years. He had 2 years of beautiful. Ask anybody. It was huge. He had everybody. He had all the Republicans behind him. He had the House. He had the Senate for half of his administration, and he blew it. And he blew it miserably. And he was a horrible miscreant it will go down in history as one of our worst presidents ever. And yeah, there's no other better word than Mr. Powers nailed it just with the word treason. That was enough for me.
Matt, your final thoughts for the night after listening to the rest of the panel. And first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming and giving me your opinions. And so, Matt, go ahead. What's your final thoughts for this evening?
Well, when I think back on every presidential election in my lifetime, the winner has always seemed to be the candidate that persuades the most working voters to show up to the polls and vote for them in certain key states under our system that we have, whether we like it or not. And in that case, it's a real toss-up right now as to who's going to win, because it really comes down to what a handful of working voters, right or wrong, think of that candidate's economic policy and how it will affect them and their ability to make a living. And that's what I think will decide this election. The economic policies, selling their economic policies to those key voters in certain states, getting them to show up and vote for them. It's always the economy.
Yeah, that's wow. See that now you have me thinking of one other question that I want to ask the panel. Why do we always talk when we talk about the economy? And I've heard a lot of people talk about the price of gas, the price of eggs, price of gold, all different kinds of things. But no one talks about the record profits that these companies are making. Nobody talks about the record profits that the gas that Exxon is making. No one talks about the record profits for SDG&E. I mean, shouldn't we go after some of these industries rather than go after personal people for their income tax and some of these super rich? Even President Trump said that he hadn't paid his taxes because he takes advantage of the loopholes. So, what do you think, here, people? Why are we talking about record prices, but we're not talking about record profits? Matt.
Well, Kamala Harris has been talking about the record profits of corporations. The problem is she's going after the wrong tax. She's talking about raising corporate taxes rather than the income taxes of the executives of these at the top of these corporations. The income taxes, because if you raise corporate taxes, it does take away jobs. If you raise an executive's income tax at the very top of the bracket, it does not take away jobs. So she needs to go after them as individual taxpayers making a certain amount of money, raising the taxes at the top there, rather than going after corporations themselves, which create jobs.
Okay. Demetrius, I'm going to give you the last word on all this. I'm going to go back through. Mr. Powers, what's your thoughts? We talk about record prices, but we don't talk about record profits.
Well, I guess that's the proverbial box. Capitalism versus communism. Who gets what and how much? I've lived through a couple of, I worked for a couple of large companies, and they did not have a trickle down finger. So I don't have any mercy for them. I'm going to defer to Cat Williams on this and say, can we just not have a president for a while? Can we do that?
Rebecca, what's your thoughts on this? Record profits versus record prices.
It's not popular. We don't talk about it because it's not. I don't know. I think we've been sticking our head in the sand over it for so long. We're so used to getting screwed by the corporate entities. But he's absolutely. This gentleman is absolutely right. If you raise it on the companies themselves instead of the CEOs that actually earn that income and make those bonuses, I think that point was spot on for sure.
Thank you.
You bet.
Bishop, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, Obama tried that, and that's what happened. Companies left, corporations leave. If you tax them, all they do is move. Even within states, if you don't give them tax breaks or don't cater to them, they just move states. And so I agree with Matt on that the answer is the income of the executives, which they're going to just increase the amount of incentive they get, and it'll still hurt the people at the bottom, but it's a better answer. It's a much better answer. Also, before we go, man, I hate to plug, but you guys get my book, Christians Must Vote, 8 Biblical Reasons to Vote Conservative. 8 Biblical Reasons to Vote Conservative. It's all Bible-based. Christians Must Vote, Pastor Frank Tull. You can get it on Amazon. Thank you.
All right. Okay, right. And it's under Bishop Frank or Pastor Frank?
It's under Pastor Frank Tull.
All right, Demetrius, I put a lot on your plate here. As you know, you're my Aaron Judge tonight. So hit it out the park for me.
No, it's easy because they've already done it, right? I don't have it. I think I'm going to double down with Becky and say Frank kind of nailed it. I happen to be one economically who believes it all centers around job creation. And if you do, as Pastor Tull said, and Matt originally said, you tax the corporation, you de-incentivize jobs, you move, right? I am about creating jobs. My hometown of Flint, Michigan is an economics class in how not to do it, right? When I grew up, both my parents worked at GM plants. There were 7 plants going. Flint was a great place to grow up when I grew up because everybody was working. Now, the problem was 70% of the people worked not in one industry. They worked for one company or a sub of one company. So when GM systematically left Flint and the city didn't diversify, did not encourage other opportunity, we were just stunned. GM will never leave. This is Flint. It's called Vehicle City, right? My hometown is an economic study. It really is. So I am about anything that is incentivizing companies to create American jobs, good paying American jobs. That's how I think you address 70% of economic problems, national level economic problems. Just create jobs because people with jobs pay taxes. In every city, every state, and our country, when you do your budget and that top line is what you make, your paycheck, that's the line item. That's the revenue stream for our country. Number 1 is income tax. That's where we get our money. And if people aren't working, they're not paying taxes. State level, City of Flint's a great example. When your population goes from 350,000 to 170,000, that's a whole lot of people not paying taxes to the City of Flint. It's not even that difficult. So I mean, my follow up is mostly I agree with pretty much everything that was said already. Create jobs, taxes don't help me. I'm in a bracket where I pay plenty, and if they're using my tax money for the right stuff, I'm good with that. I'm not a guy who's ever complained about paying taxes because it means I have a good job and I make good money. And the alternative, not appealing to me, not appealing at all to me. So use my taxes right, create jobs. So you can go after the corporations if you want. Everybody told you what's going to happen there, and I lived it, so I know that's what's going to happen. So tax the exempt, get that money.
All right, everyone. I ran over a little bit, and I apologize, but we were having such a great discussion that I didn't want to break it up. So I thank everyone for your participation tonight. I look forward to talking to everyone again, and I will probably be getting in touch with you for future discussions. Bishop, I have a program especially for you and some other clergy members that I want to put together. So I would definitely be back in touch with you. And as for everyone else, as I said, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I hope to have you all back on my panel once again. Have a great night, everyone. A great
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone.
Go Lions.
Thank you.
Be blessed.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.